Well, you make exactly the right point. Data can be weaponized. There is a reason why privacy law exists, why this is a really important body of cases that the Supreme Court has ruled on over the years, and why we've seen internationally when you aggregate data and you put it into hands with little oversight, it can and very often will be abused. I mean, I've reported on that in many places around the world. But just to take an example of a current superpower, we've seen how China has centralized data in an unrestricted way and used that to create a surveillance apparatus that really has been used to target ethnic minorities. You can take this kind of personal data, which includes health details, mental health details, financial details, and you can use it to target people, to come after people, to categorize people and take action against them, deny them rights. So this is serious stuff, and that's why you see the minority in the court today really sounding alarm about this. You know, Justice Jackson saying the court has lost its way. This is something that privacy proponents are going to be talking about for a very long time. Then you come to the hands we're putting it in. DOGE. This is an unproven ad hoc organization. There are still unanswered questions about its legal status. There's not a lot by way of congressional oversight or restrictions. There are a lot of questions about its staff. A lot of the DOGE staff is hired under the same status Elon Musk was hired under, as special government employees, basically meaning they could fast track the hiring of really young, really inexperienced people. This opens up a whole lot of risks and vulnerabilities, which we can get into.
While DOGE is dead and Elon Musk's time at the White House is over, that doesn't mean that tech billionaires still don't have unfettered access to the most important elements of our government. And the scariest example making waves in this moment right now is the way in which Donald Trump plans to exercise mass surveillance over all Americans, stealing our data to use for the most sinister reason. And one of his stooges, billionaire Peter Thiel, who is behind that operation, just ran away when confronted with one of the worst elements of Donald Trump's plan. We're going to get into it all. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way in supporting the work we are doing here. Now, before we get into that clip of billionaire Peter Thiel running away, and check out the furious MAGA reaction to Trump's plan, I want to start with some context, and it comes to us from Congresswoman Crockett, who called this all out.
When I left, we were talking about Elon. And so I want to make sure that we don't forget him. I know that some people want us to forget Elon and act like he never existed, but we're not going to do that. We are talking about AI today, and I can tell you what real people in my district care about. I had a few town halls, and I talked to some seniors, and they were concerned about their data and their information and how it was being used. And they wanted me to answer questions that I just didn't have the answers to about what has Elon done with their tax information, their social security information, their health information, banking information, information about their credit histories. And instead of demanding answers, Republicans just blocked our motion to subpoena him to testify before this committee. And I'd ask at this point for unanimous consent to enter into the record a picture of who all was in the room when we took the vote. Madam Chair?
No objection.
As well as, since our clerk was ready and she knew who was in the room, the actual record of who was in the room at that time.
No objection.
Thank you so much. 5 months into the 119th Congress, and no one from the administration or DOGE has appeared before this committee to explain why they're invading the privacy of Americans. And the irony of it all is, during a 2023 hearing, I remember Chairman Comer stating that, quote, "We've witnessed big tech autocrats wield their unchecked power to promote their preferred political opinions. And now He and committee Republicans are here helping the world's richest man to do just that. They're letting him spy on companies competing for government grants, but worse, they're letting him spy on you, the American people. Look, we can all agree that incorporating emerging technologies like artificial intelligence into government operations can be effective. However, these technologies shouldn't be used to weaponize the government against the public.
The inception of this plan, as it always does with Donald Trump's administration, began with fear-mongering, stealing Social Security information, collecting data on immigrants, so Donald Trump could go forward with his mass deportation plan, claiming he needed this information to keep Americans safe. Yes, this is how it always begins under these authoritarian regimes. Now, Donald Trump, of course, is pivoted. He wants to surveil all of us, collecting hundreds of data points across government agencies, and even more than just that, and handing them off to a private corporation, Palantir, run by billionaire Peter Thiel, who is responsible for making J.D. Vance's entire political career. He is a scary person with a scary amount of influence over our government, and when he was confronted by that, he just ran away, silently. Take a look, right here.
Mr. Thiel, do you have any comments about Palantir's surveillance of the American people, sir? Or any of your connections to Jeffrey Epstein? I think people are rather concerned about that last particular one. You're setting up a Big Brother surveillance system, and people know it, sir. Do you think the American people want this surveillance tech being used against them? Any comments at all on the Epstein connections? You were meeting with them. People are waking up to what you're doing there, sir. That's why we're here covering this.
How much more do we need to know about the sinister operation going on here than to see a billionaire sprinting away when confronted over this scheme? It is absolutely terrifying. And it's not just Democrats who feel this way. This has been a talking point of the right for so long that the Democrats and Biden were going to create a police state. They were going to track you. Bill Gates is going to put a chip in your cereal or vaccine or whatever it was. I don't even know. But now Donald Trump is doing it, and MAGA is freaking out. As we can see right here, MAGA influencers sound the alarm on Trump's big tech database, warn they are being bought off in recent days. MAGA influencers, from Steve Bannon to Tom Dillon to Ian Carroll, have all sounded the alarm on Peter Thiel's Palantir being brought in by the Trump administration to create a central database of Americans' information. Dillon, a popular comedian and podcaster on the right, went so far as to say, "I think they are buying people," and accused Thiel of inviting him over for dinners to discuss the media, clearly suggesting big tech is working to buy off MAGA influencers to support Palantir's list, as he called it. Even the big MAGA influencers on the right can understand what is happening. Right now is incredibly scary. Donald Trump wants to create a surveillance state in which he can track the actions of everyone except the thugs he's having carry out his intimidation. Donald Trump wants every single data point on you and wants to know where you are and what you're doing all the time. But ICE agents who are busting into your home, refusing to identify themselves, can wear a mask. That's the America that we're going to live in under Donald Trump. No, I don't think. So this is incredibly scary, especially as a private corporation run by a man who helped elect the president and handpicked his vice president is taking over our information. If that doesn't scare you, I don't know what will. And we saw more important reporting on this by Jens Psaki and Ronan Farrow. I want to take a look right here.
No question about it. We just talked about some of that. I mean, and one of the goals of DOGE has always been to scoop up data. I mean, they haven't made any secret of that. I spoke with someone recently who used to work in the IRS who said someone from DOGE told her in a meeting that data is the mission, that getting data is the mission. I mean, you're an excellent investigative reporter. You've mentioned some of the things that you want more information on, but what are you going to be watching, or what are some of the questions that you think people should be asking about this access and what they could be doing with it?
The point you made, that data is the mission, is a really important one for all of us to sit with, just as citizens concerned about all of our safety and freedom. Silicon Valley has showed us that time and time again, they are on a mission to aggregate data about human beings in order to manipulate and monetize human behavior. We are coming to a reckoning about how social media platforms did that. We are still to come to a reckoning about how AI companies will do that. Elon Musk and his stake and role in DOGE connects directly to Elon Musk's stake and role in Grok through his company XAI. There is evidence, we don't have a lot of transparency on this, we don't have all the answers, but there is evidence that he is feeding a lot of this sensitive data into his own AI products, using them to train his own AI products. We don't know how much of that data may be exiting with him, may show up in his systems in years to come, which are systems that accord to his private interests, which are very different from the interests of the American people.
No question about it. And all those questions about where that data could be and go with some of these DOGE officials still in the government is a huge, huge, huge one. You did. I mentioned I reread this extensive profile. Everybody on our team reread it today. It's basically about how entangled Musk had become at that point in time with the national security apparatus of the United States. In some ways, how powerful he had become. I mean, obviously that entanglement has only grown deeper in many, many ways. I mean, and yesterday, Musk threatened to decommission the spacecraft that brought back 2 stranded astronauts. Unclear where that sits at this point, but that was a threat. Knowing and following and investigating and reporting on him as much as you have, if he really wanted to make things painful for Trump and really, more importantly, for the American people, given all of his companies and entanglements, what else could he do?
There is a bigger picture here, which is part of what I was writing about, of waning government power and of rising private power. There are a lot of economic and political factors that have led up to this point. But we are in a state now where there are key services that once would have been a guarantee from the state that are in the hands of private, unaccountable billionaires and private unaccountable companies that they run. You mentioned the threat to decommission the Dragon craft. That is the only way we have to ferry astronauts from the International Space Station back to Earth. There is literally a possibility that if he were to actually do that, and it does seem like someone tweeted at him and said maybe not, and he said, okay, fine, I won't. But this is the threshold for decision making about something that could literally leave human beings stranded and facing death. And we haven't built in redundancy. And what government officials were telling me even a couple of years ago was, hey, we're alarmed because there is an erratic person who has his own complicated international alliances and business interests, who is controlling key functionality that the American people depend on. And that's not isolated to Elon Musk. We are seeing that across the board. We are seeing companies like Palantir, run by another billionaire Musk donor, Peter Thiel, play a role in aggregating and centralizing data across the U.S. government, again, being given unprecedented access and power to tools that really can be used to target and harm people.
Ronan Farrow, I hope you will come back and talk with me about Palantir and Peter Thiel and all of that, because data and their access to data and all of these billionaires is such an important story to follow right now. And few people know it as well as you. Thank you so much.
We need to call this out. We need to make this a sticking point for Democrats and talk about this constantly. Remember when we were first introducing the electorate to Project 2025, the chilling effect that it had? This is another one of those political wedge issues. We need to talk about it more. I'm going to on this show, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.